Hello and welcome to my video. Today I'm going to talk to you about Dynasty Warriors Origins from the perspective of a Dynasty Warriors veteran. So I've played Dynasty Warriors since I grew up. It's a really big part of my childhood, and seeing Dynasty Warriors content in the current era is really cool to me. So obviously I'm going to check out Dynasty Warriors Origins. What I've done with the game is I've done 100% on the Wei story, I've done 100% on the Shu story, and I've done 100% on the Wu story. I did the Wei story as my hardest playthrough, as my first playthrough on hero difficulty. I went and did the medium difficulty with Shu, and I did the easiest difficulty with Wu, just so I would have every single perspective and I can speak to the depth of the difficulty of the game. So here I am, 100% of the game. I've done everything that you can possibly do in the game. If you disagree with me, feel free to leave a comment in the replies. I will try to engage you in a mutual, respectful discussion. Just because I have an opinion doesn't mean it's automatically correct. So I just want to talk to you about the things I like, things I dislike, what I would like to see from the series next, and every point will be timestamped. So if you want to see my opinion on something, you'll just be able to jump to it. So without any further ado, let's start with the great points of the game. So the great points of the game for me is Dongzhuo, Yuan Xiao, the grand scale of battles, fluidity of the weapon system, and it feels like a Dynasty Warriors title in many aspects. So I think the biggest thing going into this game is that people are intimidated by the fact that it has a Wukong-esque style of approach to how you're using your abilities. So I think after Dynasty Warriors 9, we're all a little bit traumatized with the game franchise on the direction, the generals not having their unique weapons, and etc, etc. But I can say this definitely feels like a Dynasty Warriors game in many aspects. There's a couple aspects that don't really gel well in my opinion, but I'll be talking about that a little bit later. But in general, you're playing a Dynasty Warriors game. It feels like a Dynasty Warriors game. You have the Dynasty Warriors cast, and I'd also like to mention this game has the best visual designs of every character, period. There is a little bit too much of twinkification, but in general, like Taishi Si, peak. Lu Bu, peak. Yuan Xiao, peak. Dongzhuo, peak. Zhang Jiao, peak. Everything in this game is really, really good visually speaking. There's very little I have to complain about character design. In Dynasty Warriors 9, Lu Bu had this like Roman looking tunic chestplate on, which I disliked. There was the visual downgrade in many characters, but in Dynasty Warriors Origins, they've went back to the initial core and improved upon the concepts rather than trying to replace them with something else. So big thumbs up for the character design. They all look incredible. So there's a new weapon system in this game which works like Wukong. You press R1 on your controller. I'm not familiar with the keyboard controls, and you get access to 4 different special abilities which can interact with enemy troops. You have wave clear options, you have high damaging skill abilities, you have movement abilities, you have pretty much whatever you want. You get to customize your wheel, and you have skills unique to every single weapon, which I believe there is 9 in total if you're including the hidden one. So this is a really good system in my opinion, because it allows you to be fluid. You get to go into a game, you customize what skills is like available to you. Let's say you're playing against somebody you know is a heavy hitter, but they're very fast, like Zhang He. Then maybe you would consider in your layouts that you want to use an evasion skill, or if you're playing against somebody who's slow hitting and slow hitting and hard hitting, you want to play against Zhang Fei, maybe you'll run a skill that requires some charge up but does a big amount of damage, right? So the amount of optimization you can do from yourself is great. The skill system is really good, and it doesn't feel like it's taking away from Dynasty Warriors at its core. It feels additive. And the scale of the battles, I'm sure you've seen clips on YouTube if you're watching this video now, but it's incredible. When you are charging in with all your allies and you've built up the morale system throughout the game, it feels you're really a part of the battlefield. It gets your blood pumping. It's like, oh yeah, dude. This is the step of Dynasty Warriors that we've needed for a while. Every single peon that's following you around, every general you saved around the map, they all charge to this point on the map and they wait for you to lead the charge, right? So you feel really immersed, like, oh, I went to the east of the map to save Lian from an ambush. He will go to the charge, and then you'll see your progress actually matter, because now his troops are a part of the charge into the big battlefield, right? So the grand scale of the battles, the tactics you can do, you get to lead your own squadron of troops, incredible. And one last thing, Zhang Jiao. I think they've drastically improved on Zhang Jiao, Dongzhuo, and Yuan Xiao. These 3 characters specifically, as we all know, they used to be a bit like comedic, like Yuan Xiao's like, oh, Namido bears, you peasant, get out of my face. He's still pretentious, don't get me wrong, but now he feels prestigious and pretentious. He doesn't feel like... They got rid of some of his snobbiness, I guess is the way to say it. They made Yuan Shao less of a snob. They made Dong Zhao cruel and cunning instead of just comedic and fat. And they made Zhang Jiao, like, sympathetic, and you can relate with his cause, and you can understand his motivations, his will, what is he trying to achieve, and things like this. So with Zhang Jiao, Dong Zhou, Yuan Shao, really big improvements to me, especially Dong Zhou. I consider myself way aligned personally. I believe in Zhang Liao, best boy. But I was even considering joining Dong Zhou. Unfortunately, this game doesn't offer you the opportunity to join Dong Zhou, which I think is a really big miss on their part, considering they do this system with Altered Fates, which I thought was really cool. Altered Fates, another really big plus. Altered Fate means if a character is choreographed to die, so Goa Jia, Dian Wei, Sun Jian, Sun Ce, they give you an opportunity to save these characters, and then they give you an alternate playthrough of what would happen if these characters stayed alive, right? So I think not having the option to like join Dong Zhou, Yuan Shao, and stuff like this, and play to the what if scenarios is a little bit sad, but the fact that it exists to begin with is really good. So big plus on the Altered Fates. One more thing I would like to say is the map. The map feels great. The map is really, really cool. It's really big. It's really expansive. It looks beautiful. And it feels like you're walking around China. And while I'm going to one castle, you see a giant one castle on the map. If you're going to Xibi, you see a giant Xibi flagships, boats, everything. You go to Xiapi, you see a giant castle that is like recognizable in the games. So this is a really big plus to me. I think they can continue to expand upon the map, but the map is a really big plus. A couple more things I want to list out that are good is the boss fight mechanic. So Zhang Jiao, at the end of his campaign, you do a big 1v1 against him, and it feels like hype. When you're going into the Zhang Jiao fight, you're like blown away at like what is actually happening, and like the events leading up to this, great. Zhang Jiao, everything about him was done perfectly. If everyone from Dynasty Warriors or Koei or anyone involved with the game, Zhang Jiao, Dong Zhou, Yuan Shao were done great. Zhang Jiao, though, is my personal favorite behind Dong Zhou. I think he was handled beautifully. And the second thing I want to say is good is the voice acting. Chinese and Japanese voice acting are both great. English voice acting is unfortunately a bit mid and passionless, but it's not as bad as Dynasty Warriors 9. Sometimes it's a bit cheesy, sometimes it's alright, but Japanese is the best, Chinese second best, English third, but I would recommend you listen to Chinese for the authentic experience, then go for the Japanese when you want to feel cool and immersed. Now, let me talk about the downsides. The main character is absolutely insufferable, and I mean this to a point of like genuine hatred. Dynasty Warriors veterans will probably... The main thing about Dynasty Warriors veterans with this game is like, when it comes to picking it up, is like, we want to play as Zhahui Dun, we want to play as Guan Yu, we want to play as Cao Cao, Liu Bei, Sun Jian, right? But this game doesn't give you the opportunity to do that. It only does in about 1 minute of gameplay per round. You're actually allowed to play as the characters that we actually like. So that's the main takeaway from Dynasty Warriors Veterans I've heard on the subreddit and YouTube videos and stuff like that. And I'm sad to say the main character is just genuinely insufferable. So not only is the reason veterans are staying away from the game, or presumably staying away from the game, is because of this character. The character is also annoying at the same time, at least from my perspective and what I've been seeing around. Some people like him, some people don't, but in my opinion, he is genuinely insufferable. So my first playthrough with Wei, I watched every single cutscene, and I tried to understand his character and what they were trying to do with him. If you're not familiar with the character, he has amnesia, and what that means is he basically has no personality traits, and every single conversation he interacts with is just irrelevant, right? It doesn't matter. All the conversations happen the same way, regardless of whatever input you put in, right? So you're a faceless character. You're also a twink for some reason, so you can't customize that either. And personally, I lean for the beefier characters like Zhang Liao, Pang De, Zhahui Dun, Zhao Yuan. These characters are like the physical character I like to be represented as. In this game, you have to play as a twink. He has amnesia, he has no personality character traits, and he's just the GOAT. So he can just walk up, one-shot Lubu, and that's just it, right? It feels very dissatisfying, as opposed to if you were playing as Sun Shangjiang, if you were playing as her and you beat Lu Bu, all your family is like, oh, let's go, you know, you get hyped up. But since you're a faceless character that nobody really cares about, it's just, you killed Lu Bu, wow. They don't even say anything. Genuinely, the characters do not even say anything. The characters say, like, good job when you hit 1,000 kills, 2,000 kills, 3,000 kills. But when you beat Lu Bu, they're like, oh, we've beaten Lu Bu. Let's move on, you know? But in historical games, when you beat Lu Bu, it's like, Zhang Liao has slain Lu Bu. There's none of that hype for the personal character here. It's just like, oh, we beat Lu Bu, let's move on. He doesn't matter in dialogue. He's faceless. The way you interact with dialogue doesn't change anything either, so really big downside. My next point is difficulty in the game. It's not actual difficulty. What they do when you move up the difficulty sliders, I did a playthrough, again, of the hardest, medium, and easy. And then I went back and did a couple games on the hardest difficulty, but I just didn't find it enjoyable, personally. Because the way they make it more difficult is they just add sponginess to heroes, right? One egregious example of this that I would like to point out is Zhang Fei. I believe at the end of Cao Cao's ending, you have one battle where you're fleeing away from Sun Quan and Liu Bei. Zhang Fei shows up at 2 different times, as well as Guan Yu and Zhao Yun. These 3 specifically are really egregious because they tank so much on the hardest difficulty and hero. Because remember, I did my way playthrough on the hardest and the very hardest. Zhang Fei alone took maybe 3 minutes of perfect gameplay again just to die. So he would swing, swing, swing. I would dodge, 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 or dodge parry. And then I get a chance to break his shield. But the thing is, he's so tanky, I have to do that 3 times in a row just to take about 25% of his health, right? So he'll do attack, attack, attack. I would dodge, dodge, dodge. I would then attack, attack, attack. He will attack, attack, attack. I will attack, attack, attack. He will attack, attack, attack. I'll attack, attack, attack. And then I have to do that 5 times, approximately, before I actually slay him once, right? So, and then I have to do that to Guan Yu, and then I have to do that to Zhao Yun. So the way the game adds difficulty is just adding slight penalties, like when you block, you consume bravery. Bravery is how you access the ability system. And it just adds 3,000 health and more damage to enemy heroes, right? So the way they go about difficulty in this game is really bad, in my opinion. What I think they should do is increase the enemy's damage, that's fine, and then give them more moveset. Because when you add health, it just makes them spongy, so even though I'm playing perfectly, I don't really get any benefit from playing perfectly, apart from like, hey, I get to beat the game on the hardest difficulty, right? So yeah, that's my one big complaint with the combat system right now. I think if you're a Dynasty Warriors player, a Dynasty Warriors veteran coming into this game, you should probably play on medium as your first playthrough, and then if you enjoyed the way the combat system feels, you should play on heroic. But I would never play above heroic unless you're actually like enjoying the game for its gameplay. Historian game mode, which is the easiest one, is comparable to easy mode on Dynasty Warriors 6. It's very easy. You pretty much can't ever die. So yeah, I recommend everyone plays on medium for their first playthrough. Hero, if you really like the combat system, but if not, I think you'll ruin your experience by playing on Hero. Purely because of how the combat system is designed. Because if you look back to the historic Dynasty Warriors titles, if you know an enemy is casting an attack, you can interrupt their attack, right? But every general in this game has stagger-proof resistance. So you have to wait for attack, 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 block, block, block. There is no, like, dance, which is really sad, because aggression isn't rewarded. There is like there's no expertise in this system. It's like once you figured out the enemy's moveset, you have basically perfected the game, because you can just dodge, block, attack, 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 dodge, block, attack, attack. So yeah, that's my really one big complaint with the game, aside from the main character. These are going to be smaller complaints, but they're still there for me. Repetitive gameplay and repetitive characters. So the roster is halved in this game, I believe. Usually Dynasty Warriors has about 68 characters. I could be wrong about that. In this game, there's about 30. When you fight a Wu map, you're going to see Han Dong, Cheng Pu, Huang Gai, Zhao Yun, Sun Ce, Sun Jian, etc., etc. The main core cast of Wu. And that's it. There is no more introductions of characters. As soon as you see everyone, you've seen everyone, right? There is no more introductions. There is no more characters. You are just going to be seeing the same playstyles, these ability kits over and over and over again, so it just gets a little bit repetitive. I also think this game would be a great time to introduce new characters to the series. So they've tried to do this in previous titles and it kind of bloated the roster. So like the Jin I think that was a lot of bloat there. I think they tried to introduce Yuran, who I think was a big flop. Some characters I would recommend for Shu, I would like Huojun. He said Lu Biao and Jing. I would like to see... I mean, Leo Hua was obviously one of the most requested characters because he was in the Yellow Turban Rebellion. He was in Shu, and he served all the way up to the end. I would like to see Zhuzi, Z-H-U-Z-H-I. I'm English, I can't speak Chinese, I apologize. Zhuzi. He recommended to Sun Ce to stop being a vassal of Yuan Shu, right? So he's a foundational character I think you could expand upon. And for Wei, I would like to see Wen Pin. I think Wen Pin and his son, Wen Qin, I believe, are very significant characters of the story, so it would be nice to see. I also think Moji and Cheng Yu could be customized. Cheng Yu a little bit more, less so, but Moji and Duxi, UXI, he's very cool. So this is a good game to introduce new characters to, because the visual designs that they're going for in this game are absolutely fantastic. Again, I mentioned it in my good points. But yeah, more characters, please. And there's way too many load screens. There are way too many. So on my first playthrough, again, I listened to every story, and then at the end, I just started skipping through everything. And there was like, the most egregious time I can think of, there was 7 back-to-back cutscenes in a row. So it would be like, start a conversation, end the conversation, load screen. Start a conversation, end conversation, load screen. Start a conversation, end the conversation, load screen, right? It did it 7 times in a row during midway through Sao Wei's campaign, but there was just way too many load screens. There was no reason to go from conversation to conversation. You need to put in a load screen. I believe this game took me 50 to 55 hours to fully complete to 100%. And I think if I was to listen to the dialogue on every single playthrough, I would be at about 60 to 65. And if they removed the loading screen issues, I think my playthrough would have gone 50 hours to 45 hours. Maybe that's a bit harsh because I was skipping through all of them. Maybe like it would take 2 hours off, right? But that's still a significant amount of time spent on load screens. So loading screens, there's just too many of them. There is too many cinematic events. But about the cinematic events, this game has the best cinematics ever. Dian Wei has the most hype cinematic ever. It's every cinematic in this game, when they are trying to be cinematic, is incredible. So just remove load screens and we're good. So with that out the way, let's talk about the Overworld map. So the Overworld map I previously spoke about in high regard. I would like to just point out, if they do a Dynasty Warriors Origins Empire version, this map has the perfect template for it. And I also would like to see, in a Dynasty Warriors Origins Empires version, ways that we can serve Yuan Xiao, Dongzhou, Zhang Jiao, in significant ways that involve cinematics, right? I basically want to continue the experience of this game into an Empires game, because this game is good. So the campaign map is really cool. It's beautiful. You can go around the map and pick up crafting materials. You can go and interact with officers. There's patrol missions. There's random spawn-in, enemy rampaging. There is enemy bandits. There's a lot of things you can do on the map. I want to interact with the map more. By that, I mean they have this system called Peace, right? So if you go to an area and you do X amount of bandit clearing, you do X amount of missions in the area, your peace level in the region goes up and it gives you rewards. What I would like to see on top of that is when peace goes up, I would like to see more prosperity. I would like to see buildings being made outside the capital. I would like to see merchants. I would like to see trade routes, trade merchants on the paths. I would like to see the paths upgrade. I think one way you could elevate this map even more is by interacting with the player. So when I do something, have that something happen on the map, right? If I'm increasing prosperity in this area, show the prosperity. If I'm increasing peace in the area, show that the bandits are fleeing from the region. If I am ignoring an area, let that place become more rampaged as the bandits are fleeing to this area that I'm neglecting, right? It would be a nice way to see my progression actually physically showing on the map. So what would I do differently with the game is how I want to round out this video. My main thing is the main character. Thing is, you've gave him amnesia, so he doesn't know who he is, and I think there's something you can do with that, right? Because I do like some aspects of this character. I like the what if of, like, what if this guy actually existed, because it allows for the altered fate. I think when you are interacting him with the altered fate mechanic, it is a beautiful game, right? I would put that near 10. That high 9, low, just barely not touching 10, right? So what I would do differently is I would give you personality choices. So at the start of the game, let me customize him and let me decide how I interact with these characters. Because I'm faceless, I have no personality, I have no memories. So since I don't know who I am, let me try to establish who I am. So let me pick between like merchants, let me pick brutes, let me pick hero, let me pick farmer, let me pick a myriad of ways to customize my character at the start of the game, which can let me actually interact with characters in a significant way. Because the main critique I have of the main character is that he's nobody. He doesn't have any personality quirks, he doesn't have any traits, he doesn't have any background, right? What I would like to see is the way he interacts with the personalities I actually care about. So if I walked up to Zhang Liao and I have a brutish personality, we should clash a little bit as our deals are not aligned. If I walk up to Dong Zhuo and my personality is brute and raider, for example, he will have high synergy with me in dialogue. If I walk up to Liu Bei and I have virtuous and hero, then Liu Bei and I will have high synergy. So what I want to see is a way or some kind of system where my choices do matter, and the way I present myself to characters does matter. Do I spend more time helping out farmers being raided by peasants? Relations up with Liu Bei. Do I spend more time training diligently with Cao Cao? Relations up with Yu Jin. Do I spend time focusing on my homestead? Relationship with Sun Jian. Remember? So family, Sun Jian, discipline and military way, and then Shu is virtuality and peasantry, right? So I think there's a good way that you can actually have this character as a self-insert work if you allow customization. So that's the one big thing I would do. I would also say that when you commit yourself to a faction, that you get the color of the faction. So when you join Cao Cao, your armor should become blue. When you join Wu, red, Shu, green. What happens currently is your armor stays black, and you're just, it's kind of like anomaly on the battlefield. You never really feel a part of the faction, and that's one of my biggest critiques of the game as a whole. I never really feel like I'm a colleague of Guan Yu. I never feel connected to Zhang Liao. I never feel connected to Sun Jian, even though I saved him. Because I'm not really invited to do anything until the end of the game. So that's one thing I would do differently. I would also change the bodyguard system. So Dynasty Warriors 3, in my opinion, had the best way to interact with bodyguards. Bodyguards, you could customize them, you could name them, you could actually watch their growth. This game has a really cool system with the bodyguard system, where you get a squad of up to 30 men capped out, right? But you never get to really experience their development with you. So you go through the game, one of them will die, they don't say, oh, I'm retreating, I'm out of here. What happens is when all 30 of them die, the guard says they're retreating, right? But I want more personality and more experience in my veteran guard, right? I want to see them go from like common nobles and bandits. I want them to become privates, corporal, general, you know? I want to see the progression of my allies around me and feel like I'm advancing with them. Right now, you just get given 30 guards who just can do different tactics and stuff like that, but you never really feel connected to them because they're always changing. Because when you enter a base after your guard has died, they replenish, but now these are different people, right? So I would say there's a problem with like a lack of connectivity. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I give this game a strong 7. If they change the main character and do a little bit of tweaking with the game, I give it a strong 9. This game is a very good game. It's definitely a Dynasty Warriors game. The hard difficulty is just not for me, and I'm somebody who enjoys playing games at the hardest difficulty. And I hope to see an Empire version of this game where I can serve Dong Zhuo, Yuan Xiao, and Zhang Jiao. I think these could be easy DLC explorations. I wouldn't mind paying 10 to 15 bucks. Maybe 10, 5, it depends. If you put out a DLC that says experience Dong Zhuo's campaign and Yuan Xiao's campaign, Zhang Jiao campaign, I would be much happy with 15 bucks on that. But knowing Koei, they're a little bit greedy with money. They might do 25 to 30. That would be a bit abrasive. So if you're going to do DLC, involve Dong Zhuo, Yuan Xiao, Zhang Jiao, Lu Biao. You could also do Ma Teng with Han Sui and, you know, the whole Zhailiang rebellion. But maybe just save it for a Dynasty Warriors Origin game if you're just planning to overprice on DLC. So that's my opinions as a veteran of the series. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you share some opinions, if you don't share some opinions, again, just drop a comment and we can have a little discussion about it. Thank you for watching the video, and I will see you in the next one. I plan on uploading bizarre content on this channel, so if this is the last time I see you, thanks for watching. If you do stick around, welcome to the channel. I've been the Card Shogun, and I'll see you in the next video. And if I don't, have a nice day and have a nice life. Bye bye.